and it's been a year since King Charles was crowned. And since the coronation, his popularity has soared. 56% of the public say that he's doing a good job, and that's a sharp rise from 49% a year ago. And 60% of Brits support keeping the monarchy. That's more than double the number who would prefer a republic. But campaigners from the group Republic held a protest over the weekend calling for the king to abdicate. So, has the king secured the future of the monarchy? 0207 862 2222 is the number for your thoughts on that. Paula, what do you reckon? Has he done the job?
A short answer to that, sadly, is I think no.
Oh.
I think there's so much more that still needs to be done. Are we a nation that loves our royal family? Absolutely, of course we are. But clearly there are some issues that haven't been appropriately addressed, and it's those issues that I worry are going to reflect on what needs to be a modernised royal family. So, for example, I took my children to the coronation, and 7, 9 and 14, and we had to go through the protests, and there were a number of Republican protests. Mm-hmm. And I asked the children, did they understand what was happening, etc. And when I explained it to them, they didn't see a problem with it. And they could understand why the protests were there. And so that got me thinking, well, how is it going to be possible for King Charles, King William, how are they going to connect with the TikTok generation? And I worry about that.
Well, yeah, connecting with the TikTok generation might be difficult. I don't see King Charles doing any dances anytime soon, Cristo.
Well, thank goodness, firstly. Secondly, I mean, how would an elected head of state manage to connect with the TikTok generation?
Sure, politicians struggle.
Politicians don't. And I would say that most politicians would absolutely be foaming at the mouth at the idea of a 60% or however many it was, I think 64% or 54? 56%, saying that they were doing a good job. I mean, most of them are in minus rating. So in answer to the question, has he secured the future of the monarchy? The monarchy really does run on popularity. It runs on the British public accepting whether they're doing a good job. Those figures are going up. I think absolutely understandably when the late Queen died after 70 years, that was going to be the time where it was going to be the most, I guess, controversial. That was going to be the time where the most protests came out. They've died down. Twice as many people, as the survey showed, believe that we should have the monarchy that we have over and above having an elected president.
Who are we seeing in terms of that popularity? And it is the older generation. It is me, at 50. It is my mum. It's not those 18 to kind of 34-year-olds.
But those 18 to 34-year-olds will become older people. And I think that the monarchy in the last 3 or 4 years, with the death of Prince Philip, the death of Queen Elizabeth, the constant attacks from Meghan and Harry trying to bring down the monarchy from within.
Is that what they're trying to do, Cristo? Trying to bring down the monarchy?
I would say bring down the popularity of the monarchy, absolutely.
Are they trying to modernise and do exactly what Paul is saying that they need to do?
I don't think you modernise the monarchy by trying to monetise your bitterness towards your family and hoiking around any kind of product that you can that slags them off, whether that be a book, whether it be an interview, or whether it be, some nonsense tea towels and jam that you're now going to try and sell in the name of the monarchy. I think that is outrageous, and that is trying to damage the monarchy.
King Charles sells jams from his estate. You do know that, don't you?
Yes, but that goes towards the running of the estate. It doesn't go towards the profits.
This is exactly the problem that I am saying is festering away that younger generation want to see addressed. Meghan wasn't treated appropriately. Harry wasn't treated appropriately. They would be fantastic supporters of King William. They would be fantastic supporters of King Charles. And they're not being allowed to do that. And just all of that negativity, sadly, around how the royal family today still reflect colonialism and the negativities that have arisen out of that. They need to be addressed, and that hasn't been managed.
You're stating that Meghan wasn't treated appropriately as fact. That's her take on things. And secondly, there is no one, I think, in in the monarchy. There are very few people, I think, in Great Britain that have done more for people from diverse backgrounds than King Charles. The Prince's Trust has done more for especially those people from diverse backgrounds that are in a less privileged position than the Prince's Trust. Now, that to me is the answer. You're quite right when it comes to the controversy and the colonialism, but that to me is the answer to that. And I think you would be hard pressed to find someone that has done as much as he has in response to that. And I will return to the fact that, fine, if there were gripes within the way in which Meghan and Harry were treated, you don't monetise those gripes. You don't try and, cash in on them.
OK, you made an interesting point, though, that I would like to hear Paula's response to about the Prince's Trust and the things that have done for diverse communities. Do you think that that's going to repair the links, I suppose, to colonialism?
What's going to repair the links to the colonialism is to have an open and honest discussion about it. And we do have some members of the aristocracy who have been prepared to sit down and look at the issue of reparations, for example, and have done so fearlessly, frankly. And I think it's the Gladstone family who have come forward, and there's at least about 100 families from the aristocracy who have said, look, we're prepared to sit down and listen and discuss the issue about reparations. The royal family have been silent about that, and that silence has resonated throughout the Caribbean. Part of the Commonwealth, this great Commonwealth. And here we had Meghan, who reflected what a lot of members of the Commonwealth look like, and yet we saw her essentially saying, rightly or wrongly, that she felt shunned, ignored, and we had a press who treated her very poorly.
It is an interesting point, because Meghan was incredibly popular with younger people in this country, as was Harry, always very popular with the younger generation.
And interestingly, her figures haven't reduced. So even though she has been vilified, quite frankly, throughout the press, suggesting that she's monetising the royal family name, not that she's gone out and earned a living in the way that you would want a member of the royal family to go out and earn a living. And there's this constant barrage, this constant negativity that I think some of the younger generation who have openly struggled with their mental health and have watched how Meghan has said she's openly struggled with her mental health, I think they're sceptical, slightly, concerned about that.
I do find it was interesting you said you took your kids to the Coronation and they saw Republic and all the protests there and could understand why they were protesting. There is a difference between understanding why somebody is protesting and seeing it and feeling the same as them. I wonder whether, because although there's a lot less support in the younger generations for the royals, those that do support the royals feel it much more heartily than those that would like a republic or those that don't. So I wonder whether, even though the numbers are fewer, the passion is higher for the royal family, even amongst the young.
I think the biggest concern for anyone in the public eye actually has to be indifference, doesn't it? I think the royal family don't want indifference. And I think they want a passion, and they clearly do amazing good work, don't they, in terms of the charities, in terms of all the charities. And that good work needs to continue, and it needs to be supported. But indifference is my fear for the royal family.
Well, that is
and
the
how
biggest
you stop
problem,
about
isn't it, Cristo? Indifference?
I agree, but I think you raise a really good point, in as much as that those that love them seem to love them far more than those who aren't happy about them. And so I think that they've got that on their side. To return to your point about there seems to have been no conversations about the history, well, King Charles has opened up that investigation about the links to slavery as well, and the money given. I have concerns about reparations, because I think that you would be essentially, it will be the taxpayer that ends up paying those reparations.
Well, the taxpayers paid the slave owners.
To stop slavery.
We only finished compensating the slave owners in 2015.
But could you imagine?
I feel a little bit uncomfortable about that. I don't know if you all do.
I get it, but also could you?
Do you feel
hang on. Well, let me answer. How I would feel more uncomfortable had there been an opportunity to stop slavery, and that at the time was seen as the opportunity to stop slavery, and we had chosen as a nation not to do that. So yes, it's. I mean, gosh, with the head of a 24-year-old, like I'm not at that age. age, but you know what I mean.
I like how you tried to make that sound. Yeah. The head of a 24-year-old.
24-year-old.
Yeah.
The head of someone living in 2024. Obviously, if that was the way to end slavery today, you would say that's absolutely outrageous. That was the way to end slavery then. And had we not taken that opportunity, had we not fought as a nation, had we not patrolled the seas to stop slavery then, there would be probably louder voices today saying how horrific the UK was for not taking that opportunity. If we did reparations today, we would be taking from people who are underprivileged today to pay people who were never alive when slavery took place. And just to go back to Meghan and Harry on your point on that, the final one, Meghan and Harry, you say that younger people look at what's happening with them now. Meghan and Harry are the ringmasters in a circus they claim they don't want to be in. If they don't want to have negative publicity, well, stop giving interviews that are negative. Stop trying to sell products based on this royal connection that you claim you don't want. And then, fine, they'll probably get a bit of press, but they would get nowhere near what they're getting now. So they can leave the stage if they want to. Let's
see if we can go away from Harry and Meghan on this one. We're asking about King Charles here and whether he's done enough to secure the monarchy's future. 0207 862 2222 is the number for your thoughts on this. We're going to go to the calls now and speak to Mary from Leicestershire. Mary, what's your views? Are you quite happy with what King Charles has done so far?
No, absolutely not. Oh. I think King Charles, and in fact, I think the entire royal family are just a parasitic drain on the country. I don't think that they deserve the funding that they get from here. In fact, if we call ourselves a democratic country, I wish there was a vote to ask the people of Britain, who are supposed to be paying per head towards the royal purse, whether we would like our money to go to that or whether we'd like our money to go to the NHS. Well, I would certainly choose the NHS.
Mary, it's very interesting. There may be in future that vote, but as yet, I don't know whether the sway to get rid of the royals is quite big enough, although you seem to be incredibly passionate about it. What about all the work that Charles has done for the environment, to campaigning for climate change? That's very popular amongst the young people. The things he's done for food banks in order to encourage supermarkets to give their food that's going off to food banks. You know, he has attempted to do some good.
Well, when you talk about food banks, I mean, there shouldn't even be food banks in this country. And he is a person who has amassed this huge fortune. I mean, have you seen the situation up in the north where he was able to take houses that were left by people who left no will I think it's in Lancashire, and their property went straight to the royal household. Imagine.
Well, I don't actually know the details of that case, but I'm presuming that would be some sort of legal issue there that's
to do with the estate, and perhaps there wasn't a will in place.
Yeah, but I agree, Mary. That sounds like very bad PR for the royals. Thank you very much for your call, Lola from London. What's your views when it comes to King Charles? Do you think he's done a good job so far? Have you been impressed?
No, not at all. I mean, to be honest, there's nothing that the royal family could do that would impress me.
Why is that?
Just because their wealth is built on subjugating others. Like, why are they seen as better than everyone else? King Charles didn't have to pay inheritance tax, for example, but yes, we do.
I hear there's lots of different rules for the royals than there are for us, but it is the basis of the royals is that we have this linear this bloodline that runs that says that these individuals are better than all other individuals. That premise, as Ola says, little old-fashioned now.
I agree. I remember I really, that came to light for me, and perhaps it did for you as well, when I had a niece and you had your children, I'm sure, where you're looking at, a child saying, oh, well, there are some people who are sort of better than you. But I just think of the alternative, and, would any of the people calling who think that the royal family are doing a bad job, would they have liked to have seen President Tony Blair? Would they like to see President Boris Johnson? The thing about the Queen, the late Queen particularly, was that the irony is that the way in which the position it comes about, i.e. you are born into it, means that they never have to actually lie to us, dupe us, or tell us any to get to that position. The late Queen she just did a good job for us. That's it. We can't say she broke promises. We can't say that she looked at us and said, well, you're going to get this and you're going to get this instead, which every politician who would become that elected president would end up doing.
You know, that's really, I've never heard that argument made, and it's a very good one actually, Paula, that we have a family there that never have to lie because they're going to get the job by default.
Make us a false promise to get there.
They don't have to say anything that's fabricated or just to get the public vote.
I'm not sure that's right. And I think, sadly, with what happened to Kate recently, we do see that there is a level of... there's a veil over the royal family. There's an expectation that they do certain things and behave certain ways. And what Harry and Meghan did, what happened recently to Kate, was a removal of that curtain, a removal of the veil.
The photo. Are you talking about the photo controversy?
To say, actually, are we getting the full story in terms of the royal family? Do we see everything we see? And the response to that is, no, it isn't. And that we vote our politicians and then we say in the next 4 years, actually, I don't like you or I didn't appreciate your policy, so I'm going to vote for somebody
another
else.
lot who are usually exactly the same, who have fed us the same amount of absolute bunkum.
They're not exactly the same. They're not exactly the same.
I would choose a ridiculous idea, by the way. That photo shopping scandal was absolutely ridiculous and stupid and badly advised.
It was crazy. It was bizarre.
I would choose that kind of deception over a PPE scandal or a war in Iraq or anything like that any day of the week.
Interesting. Let's go back to the calls. Angela from Derby, what's your view on this?
I think that King Charles has done an amazing job so far. I think he had to lead on from his mum is be very difficult, but I do think what him and Camilla have done for different charities has been amazing. What Camilla has done for violence against women, providing packages, little bags, for being victims of sexual assault and rape, of them little things matter to people in society for me, and they're the most important things. I think people do believe that they should do this, that and the other, and I don't think that's right. I think they bring a lot to the country in money, and they do a lot for people that people probably aren't aware of. But when I was given from SV2 in Derby, I was given a package that contained everything you could imagine that I would never have thought of after what happened to me. And I will never forget that. That was in 2017, and I will always remember that. Obviously,
it's actually hear from someone who has been touched individually by the work that the royals have been done. We don't often get that, so thank you very much for your call. But you bring up another thing. Part of the PR that Charles has had to work really hard for is to work against what happened with Diana, his relationship with Camilla, and to fight against that sort of reputational damage. But here we have a caller who's actually saying that the work that Camilla has done has benefited Charles in keeping the longevity of the monarchy, which is unbelievable. We wouldn't have thought that was going to happen 15, 20 years ago. The
turnaround of Queen Camilla, I mean, that's a debate. I mean, in itself, you'd never have ever thought that. But what she did, and I used to, my word, I've said this before, I'll say it again, I used to be the person that would ring up Hello Magazine, the 0898 number, voting on Diana's outfits at the end of every year because it was amazing.
Really?
So I loved Diana. I know, very surprising. But the turnaround with Queen Camilla, you'd never have thought years ago that she would, but she actually ended up embodying what being royal is. Could you imagine if she'd ever sold her story? Could you imagine how many books she would have sold had she actually decided? But she didn't. She got her head down. She didn't complain, didn't explain, and did the right thing.
There's an argument to say that maybe she's more royal than some of the other royals who have sold their story. Not just Harry and Meghan. Charles and Diana both did their own interviews.